Hello, everyone. Tracie here, your resident business rebel, and you're listening to Digital Business Your Way podcast, the show that lets true stories and insider secrets of online entrepreneur life unfold. Our business world is growing, and as an online business coach and digital product creator, I believe you didn't become an entrepreneur to grin and bear your way through business. So I'll be your guide as we drop in on coaching calls, have intimate sit-downs with online personalities you love, and discuss ideas, opportunities, and strategies circulating our online world. So pop in your earbuds, tap follow, and join me as I demystify this thing called business.
I got FOMO and I was like, oh my gosh, am I missing out? Should I be back on there? Should I be making some reels? Maybe I could reach something. And I made one and I hated every second of it. And I was like, oh no, this is why. Like I get to do it on my own terms. I don't have to do this. So it was, it was a good reminder that we get to do it our own way, but also like if you're listening to this and you feel that FOMO, you are human. Like the marketers on there, the way that the platform is built almost like makes us have FOMO. So like if you're feeling that, it's normal, but you still don't have to follow it. Like you can still do it your own way. You don't have to be on there.
Hello. Today we're talking about real connection, honest visibility, and building a business that doesn't require you to lose your weekends or your sanity with Kylie Kelly. Kylie is one of those people who just gets how to build relationships in business, not with cold DMs or performative online hustle. And we actually met when she invited me to speak inside her membership and mastermind, but not with a pitch, with a thoughtful invite. And we've stayed connected ever since. Kylie walks her talk. She's all about sustainable growth, meaningful visibility, and helping business owners grow an audience they can actually enjoy showing up for. So in today's conversation, we're pulling back the curtain and talking about the real stuff, the identity shifts we go through, the emotional launch hangovers, motherhood pivots, pressures to be everywhere, and what it looks like to trust your own voice instead of chasing another trend. If you've been in this space for a while or you're craving a way of doing business that feels more grounded, more human, more like, well, you, this one's for you. Let's listen in. Hello, Kylie. Thank you very much for being here. I love having people on that are like, let's just talk about what real life is like. You know, that's the beauty of it. And so when you're like, I'm an open book, I was like, oh, really? Let's get down to like the appendix in the back. You know?
I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Right. You know, that's the fun part. And because it's what is it beyond any of the glamour stuff, you know? And I would say beyond like any Instagram things, but neither you nor I do that. So that's also like part of the fun things. It's like, what can business look like? Because even just this week, the amount of people who have said to me, I feel like I have to sell on socials. And I've had a good 4+ people who have sent me messages and are like, wait, didn't you just say that you don't do so? Then what are you doing? How do you do things? And I was like, okay. You know, and for me, I do it one way, but you also teach another. And so I was like, well, look at this little apt timing, because this is obviously not just on people's brains, but they still don't know that there's other options out there. So while, you know, like we're here to talk about what real life has been and the pivots and all the things that you've gone through, I also I couldn't let this opportunity go by without talking about this whole invisible hustle of visibility that goes on constantly. And it's like, you're allowed to opt out of all of this. So thank you for being that open book and being here for all of it.
No, thank you for having me. I love this already, because I think that especially going in, like we're recording this in, Q3, going into the end of the year, right? So we're already kind of thinking about as business owners next year and wrapping up the year and things. And I don't know, I feel like there's always this like, did I do enough? Should I be doing more? I need to be on more. Should I? And no, you don't. And I think as well, like, it's almost easier, like if we are feeling overwhelmed or stuck in our business, it's almost easier to just think that this is the easy way out. Like jump on stories, do this thing, follow this process, when actually, no, that's not going to actually lead anywhere, right? Like you and I know that. Like I've got friends that are like, oh, I was on social so much this month. I was been doing reels. I'm like, and how's that working out for you? How much money did you make? Yeah. Oh, Oh, yeah. Yeah. I feel productive, but actually the results aren't resulting. So, oh gosh, yeah, I'm here for this conversation.
That's good. Yeah. And and the beauty of it is that it does work great for some people, and that's why they package it up and they do the things. And then for other people, they're like, well, it worked once or twice. What am I doing wrong? And others, it's like, this has never worked, or I just freeze and freak out every single time. Right. And I think that like we've both been through that mental anguish, if you want to call it, of like, well, what do I have to do? Because what does marketing look like any other way? And we're constantly told from the time that you start an online business how lucky we are that we have these beautiful platforms that are free. Oh, they're free. And so we can use them all we want, and we don't have to pay for ad space unless you want to do ads. And then that's this whole other avenue. But otherwise, it's like, it's not like billboards and those phone book things and all these things that were, like in the old days. You don't have to go to odd networking things if you don't want to. You can just do this now. And you're so lucky, and you're so lucky. And that there's almost this feeling of like, okay, well then it's what we have to do. And how shameful is it to not do it? And what else is there? I guess we're being too old school if we don't want to follow it and leverage these free platforms, right? That are out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, when, if you think about the time value of money, it's not really free, because some of us are extremely awkward and it takes us a ridiculous amount of time to make just like one post. But, there's all this kind of narrative around it where I don't think people, they don't mean to put it down so as much as they do. Does that, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
that it kind of comes down for those of us that it's hard, that it's like, oh, wow, now I feel like I'm under this giant rock and I'm never gonna get out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I love it. I was just thinking as you were saying it's a free platform. I'm like, no, it costs us so much time. Like it's definitely not free. So I'm so glad you brought that up. It's not free at all. And I think as well, I think it's just this acknowledgement and permission slip that we get to do it our own way. Like, little secret, because I'm an open book, I had FOMO like about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. I was scrolling too much because I still fall in this scrolling trap. And I was on, I don't know, the kids were being kids and watching some shit on TV, and I was just scrolling, and then I got FOMO and I was like, oh my gosh, am I missing out? Should I be back on there? Should I be making some reels? Maybe I could reach some people. And I made one and I hated every second of it. And I was like, oh no, this is why. Like I get to do it on my own terms. I don't have to do this. So it was, it was a good reminder that we get to do it our own way, but also like if you're listening to this and you feel that FOMO, you are human. Like the marketers on there, the way that the platform is built almost like makes us have FOMO. So like if you're feeling that, it's normal, but you still don't have to follow it. Like you can still do it your own way. You don't have to be on there.
Yeah, so much. And I remember, I mean, this has actually happened more than once, but I remember especially I was at like a mastermind retreat with some people, and they were like doing all these content things and, B-rolls and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, look, it's I'm supposed to be filming that pretty picture over there. Okay. Because I honestly don't think that way, so it's, that's how like I know it's just not my thing, and that was what was okay. It wasn't a stretch out of your comfort zone to excel. It was just a case of it's not a right fit. Whereas like I mean I don't mind being on camera. I don't care about showing up and doing all the things. And if somebody else wants to do it, grand. I don't care if I'm on these platforms. I just can't be the one to do it, right? And it was coming to those kind of terms. And when we were talking about people, they're like, oh, and I just made like 5 of these in the last 20 minutes. And I was like, holy shit. It's like, it takes me like 2-3 hours just to do one. And they were just as astounded at how long it takes me as I was at how quick it is for them. Right. And it's that natural fit thing. But at the same time, it's like we were having a different conversation with the same humans. And I was like, well, that can be your next training. And you just line out this part and do this part. And then if you walk people through these different things, and they were like, how did you just do that? Because that was just where my brain naturally went. Whereas theirs was like, oh, and I can make this into a carousel. Oh, and I can do that. And I can, and it's like, well, that's why we know other people. And that's why we have different ways to shine. And, and to do, just our natural fits. And I know we jumped straight into this, but which was actually an accident. But as I was thinking about this hustle thing of visibility, I was like, I mean, I got you here. This has come up so many times this week, and it just kind of started coming out my mouth. But I want to kind of go back a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like that, or I'll just edit and put this at the end of the conversation. Who knows? Because even like how you and I met, it's a testament to how you do things different, because we didn't meet because of stories or posts or DMs or any of the things. It was someone had told you, hey, you need to have her in your group. And so you sent me an email. Right. And so then I came in and did a talk in your group, and then I did a thing for an audio summit. And then I was like, well, we gel. We like this. Why don't you come on here? And it's been this kind of relationship first that we both had that bonded foundation. Right. But we've also been on that journey with that like identity shift. And so I was very curious with like, what has that looked like for you? Because you were even saying like you were still scrolling and you were still falling into that FOMO. And it was a case of, is what you have now, was that something that you had to journey to get through and create for yourself? All the naysayers be damned, it's what you were going to do? Or was it something that you kind of fell into as like that natural rebel and you wanted to do things a bit different?
Oh, I love this. So a little bit of context for everyone, I guess. So I used to be a wedding photographer. So pre-pandemic, pre-2020, I was a wedding photographer for about a decade. And that obviously all went up in flames, as did a lot of things in 2020. But yeah, like loved it. But with that, very, detail orientated, very visual, perfectionist through and through, people pleaser, like all the traits now that I'm like happy to push against. But because of that, when I pivoted in 2020, when I was like, okay, I actually wanted to let go of that business anyway, because it was very much weekend work. I was traveling internationally to shoot weddings. I now have kids. Like, it didn't fit my lifestyle anyway. So I was like, okay, I want to do something online. Oh, okay, I'll create a profile on Insta. I'll take over and we'll pivot to something else, doing some kind of online business. And I started creating content, and I was like, I'm taking so long to make anything, and I'm comfy on camera, but I'm a perfectionist. So it had to look right. It had to be curated. It had to do that. So I was taking so much time. And then when I looked back at the data, I was like, so what am I getting from this time? Like, are people clicking my links? Am I actually, and it was like nothing. And I was like, okay. The logical side of my brain goes, this is not making any sense, because how am I going to grow a business if I'm spending more of my time here and it's not really giving me any cash. So that's kind of when I was like, okay, we need to do things a little bit differently. And I think naturally I'm more introverted, right? Like, I can be out there, I can be the face, I can go to a network thing and put myself out and do the pushing out of my comfort zone and do all the things, but I need to like retreat back and have a quiet space and my cup of tea and get my energy back, and just naturally that's what I'm like. So I knew that when I wanted to build my business differently, I wanted to do it in a way that felt really good. I'm better at one-on-one conversations like this. So it's like, okay, let's think about how you can build relationships away from social that again lean into our strengths, which I think ties beautifully to what we were just talking about. It's like, what are your strengths? How can you lean into that? And so that's when I started doing like the relationship based stuff. So I started hosting summits and bundles and doing freebie swaps, podcast guesting, just things that I knew would feel really good for me, but would build my audience in a way without me having to create content on social. So it was kind of a mix of both, right? I kind of fell into it, but then it also was because I'd had this experience and was such a perfectionist, I had to burn it down and do it a little bit differently as well.
Yeah, and I would say that's that values first approach, right? You knew what mattered to you. And so whenever you had the thing that clicked, was that having those relationships and having that space and time, then all the other pieces kind of fell into place because your eyes were open to those alternatives, right? And it was like
that there were options.
Exactly. So if, if something was shiny and was like, oh, you have to do, remember back when people had to dance for reels, like all those kinds of things, whenever it wasn't just any kind of video, it wasn't necessarily something that you felt like you must do, or any single like trending audio, or any single, I have to go live every day or every week, or my podcast has to also be on, on socials, or any of those kinds of things, because what mattered to you the most, what you had chosen as your personal values, was that you had that internal space, you had that relationship, you had that time, and it wasn't going to look like it did in the past. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at that time of the, with all that was happening in the world, like I was really bloody lonely. Like we just moved interstate. I was pregnant with my second. All of my friends were left behind. We had to move in with Nick's parents. So I was living with my in-laws in mid-30s, like going like, what the F just happened?
Yeah.
Really lonely. And so this was how I could make friends, right? This is how I could connect with other women that were having a similar experience, even if they're on the other side of the world. So it was also a beautiful way to like just and grow my network. Sounds so businessy, but just grow my friend circle with people that were doing a similar thing. So I think that that's something that we often, when we're thinking about strategy all the time, we kind of forget that piece too. So like even I was talking to a client yesterday and she's in a really big summit. She's a book coach. She's in a really big summit in October or November. And she was thinking about like all the people she'll be in front of, which is of course what we think about. But I was like, hey, don't forget you're in it with all these other speakers. Like make sure you circle back and go and connect with them. And actually there's going to be some beautiful relationships that can come out of that. And I think a lot of the times we forget about that because we're focused on the strategy in business. So I was like, yeah, I think it's a beautiful way to make friends as well.
It is. Yeah. And all those adjacent connections. Right. Because just because someone else is in a conference, a summit, a bundle, a speaker lineup, a fill in the blank on what you want to call it, people. I don't care. Just that doesn't mean that they're a competition. It means that there's somebody that has some sort of connection to what it is that you also talk about. And that's why it had been curated to put all of you together. Right. So someone has already taken the time, unless it's, your own, then obviously you've done it, to be like, hey, there's a connection between all these people. Let's put it together. Well, then, okay, what is that thread? Right. And you're like, oh, gosh, someone has already taken the time to find all these people online for me. Let's go see who they are. We have this natural connection. Let's actually get to know each other, because the amount of times that I have had no clue who the other people are that are, also speaking or also, like doing a workshop or have submitted something if it's a bundle, all those kinds of things. That's like the majority of the time. Right. And so, as you're saying, like, it's a great time just to like know each other, and you'll either, meet another wonderful human, or you'll also, you'll have an opportunity to also do something else, have another collaboration, have another, in depth. But it's always nice just to find that other soul who's like, oh my gosh, yes, I get this too, or isn't this fun, or let's hang out. Right. All those kinds of good things. Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point, because it's, one of the things that I've heard you say before was that emotional hangover element of it. So you say that it can come after being really visible, or, being out there. And do you feel like as fellow introverts, that's us just needing to regain our energy? Do you think that's part of that kind of, oh my gosh, I just had 400 people opt in a day? Is it like multi-layered? What, I don't know, explain. Let's talk about it, because I feel like there's a layer to what we were just saying that is this emotional hangover part too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? As I've gotten further along in my business journey, it's almost like a bit of a muscle that gets stronger. So when I was just talking about when I started my online business, I did my first summit. I had 600 women opt into that very first event that I did. Freaking out, like holy shit! Like that's a lot right at the start. And that event almost burnt me out. But again, perfectionist, doing all the things, just being a solopreneur, doing it all myself, showing up, being the energy, doing the things. At the end, I was like, I had to take like a week and a half of like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. And I was so close to burnout at that point. So then when I went to do it again, I was like, okay, so not only was it the visibility piece, I think there was something out of alignment there. I wasn't looking after myself. There was something that wasn't balanced. So then when I went to do my second event, I definitely took more time to put it together. It wasn't such a last minute like hustle. I took more time to put it together. But then I also made sure that I was looking after myself as well, that I was getting a lot more sleep, that I was trying to let go of some of those perfectionist things that I was so sure that were important the first time that really didn't make a dime of difference. So there was all of that, and the same amount of people came. I still had like something like 600 attendees to the second event, and I think I hosted that, for context, about 4 or 5 months later. But the second event, I was fine the next day, right? Like, so I think there is definitely like a muscle that gets built the more that you do it, and the more you get used to being in front of people. Of course, it gets easier, doesn't take as much out of you. But I do think that there's, especially for somebody listening that hasn't done any of this work before or been visible in this way, I think it's just so important to like reward yourself, to like, I always book in a massage for the following week, like book some downtime, make sure you've got like no calls the next week, perhaps if you're on calls a lot, or just make sure that you have like that rebound time in case you are like, oh, that was a lot and I need to exhale. Yeah, but it does get easier as well, right?
And it gets easier because of the muscle, and also because of the systems that fall into place, right? Because the way that you're talking about this visibility mechanics sounds a lot like what I talk to people about with launching. And you're putting those same things in place for it, and that kind of makes me think about, again, with this, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. So you don't have to host a 600 person virtual summit or virtual bundle that knocks you out for an entire week, or do 30 days of, reels and stories, right? You can have this mix of things where you participate in them and you put your stuff in them, but you're not the one that's actually hosting it to begin with until you figure it out. Just like you don't have to, only do social media or not do it at all, right? There's this kind of, I don't know, I guess perception of like you have to pick a camp and stick in it. But I think a lot of people, especially those that we know and that we have in common, that are seasoned and they've been at this for a while, they do a little bit of both, and they do the bits that they enjoy. Like they have a primary visibility platform that they pour into: YouTube, podcasts, like physically speaking, now that we do that since it's not 2020, all those kinds of fun things. But then it also goes other places, right? So I mean, you obviously are a mega host at these things, but there is no flipping way I would host one. But I will happily participate in, whether they're like actual conferences or like virtual, like summits, bundles, like any of those kinds of things where things are recorded or where things are live, like all of those different kinds of ways. Like I'm happy to jump in on it. But the last time that I was hosting it was like back in my nonprofit days, when I was volunteering, and because I was a board member. Right. So it was very different as part of that versus feeling like it was on here. And I don't mean to be like talking people out of doing that either. I'm saying.
No, but I love this though. No. Because it's like, it is like choose, I was say choose your poison. That's a horrible saying, but like choose what you want, like it all takes, okay, everything takes effort. Everything takes time. Yes. Everything takes strategy. Like everything does. It all works. Yes. It all works. But it's like choose what you enjoy, and that's going to work the best for you, right? Like, so no, I love that you're saying this, because it's like, I didn't think I'd like hosting events. Like introvert me, like I would have laughed at myself had I have said like, oh my God, you're going to love being an event host. Like, hell no. But I did. I gave it a go. I loved it. And now it's actually really easy. I've built the muscle. I've got the systems. Like, it's easy for me now. Plus, the more you do things like that, the more relationships you have, the easier it is to organize, right? But there might be somebody listening, or like, I would never host that. Like, cool. You don't have to. Like, do things a different way, or just participate, or follow what feels good for you. I think that's the secret. That's the thing that I think a lot of people miss, because they don't give themselves permission to do that, right? We listen to everybody saying it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way. This is dead in 2020. This is working. Like, it all works. It all works. Just pick what you want to try,
Yeah. And that, because that's what I was thinking of, was like the way that you were talking about it. It was like as significant energy wise as a launch. And I didn't want people to get scared off as that. Instead, it's like, see this as a way of knowing yourself. because the common thread that I've heard from everything that we've talked about just in what, like the first 12 minutes was all you knew what you were after and you started noticing what you needed. And then you listened to that and you changed accordingly. Everything from your old business to your new ways, to what you wanted the family to be like, to what you were trying to build in the new one, to, oh, I did this, but then let's actually see, did it work? Did it not? Well, I want it to be easier. Well, I can relax here. Well, I'm walking into this knowing how type A I am. So where's my checks and balances? It's not going to be perfect. Haha, irony. So what can I do here to, kind of untangle from that, right? And a lot of people do it on like emotional autopilot. And so then they end up with the emotional hangover where everything just feels extremely exciting or extremely hard. And there's none of this like in between, right? So it takes like this massive recovery. And instead it's like, well, whether you are looking at all these different ways to do visibility, all these different ways to build businesses, these, the different kinds of pivots and evolutions that your business can go into. It's all about, well, what is that friction point that you're wanting to change? What is it that you're not liking, that you're wanting to see different? From the money side to the time to the energy to the family side, like what is it that is needing to kind of be massaged out? And then how can it be? And how can that still experiment? Because, I mean, those were just your first two, but now you've done, several hundred by this point, probably?
Lots. Lots. And I mean, if anybody follows human design, I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm last minute ideas. I love running by the seat of my pants, just like giving things a go. And so, I don't know about several hundred summits, but I've definitely done summits, bundles, all sorts of things. Audio summits.
Like the whole category.
The whole, Giving it all a go.
I was like, because I can imagine by now you're probably ticked quite a few of those off, and but I still can't imagine that you're not still going, oh well, do I want it to be like this next time? Do I not? That evaluation there and that evolution of turning the perfectionism into your friend. Right? Because you don't have to lose that part of you. It's just how can it actually work for me instead of accidentally working against me, where I'm not trying to be perfect to all the people who are watching and pleasing all of them, but instead it's like, well, how can I actually make this work for myself internally? Right?
Yeah. I love that. Oh, perfectionist, my friend. I love that.
Yeah.
I think as well, like, I love the point that you made around the different seasons of life and like choosing what you want to do. Like when you were talking about if you don't want to host a summit, just be in a summit. Same thing with podcasts, right? Don't want a podcast, guest on a podcast. Like there's always the other alternative to it. And I think it's really good to realize in seasons of life when things work best for you. So like I've got 2 little kids. Podcast guesting is actually hard for me. Like I only do a very small amount for people like as wonderful as you. So it's like I've got to get the kids out the door. I've got to make sure it's quiet. I've got to like make it all happen. So that's hard. So I don't do a lot of them. Instead, I have my podcast that I can record at 9:00 at night when the kids are asleep and I'm just in my closet with a microphone. Like think about the season of life that you're in. What's going to be really easy? If you were like tapped out, if you have a full-time job plus you're trying to hustle and build a business or like whatever it is, do some freebie swaps, right? Where you can schedule them out. It's just some emails and like there's always an option. When it comes to this kind of work, there's always an option to grow your audience in a way that like fits with the season of life that you're in as well.
Yes. And that's the beauty of it, because it's like we don't start these businesses to be chained down to someone else's expectations or rules or work or any of that. If we did, we would still, be in the jobs where we had uniforms or we had to sit in cubicles or we had to do, whatever life you came to before you were in this entrepreneur life, right? It's a crazy game of risk, of reward, and of figuring it out every damn day, which is also terrifying, but it's also fun in the way of it's like, okay, this isn't working. How do I need to change these dials to, like make it work for me? And you've been able to kind of, mess with that. I mean, I know that your kids are still little, especially the one that you were pregnant with in 2020, but you've still managed to make that work with hundreds. So what has that looked like on that like behind the scenes way where it's like I wanted visibility. I wanted to still have multiples versus like a boutique style where it was like 1, 5, 10, without it like accidentally going against any of those values.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think again it was experimenting and doing things differently. So I did the first two summits when I think it was like in 2022, let's say. Yeah, it was 2022. After that year, I started just doing bundles because I could organize them. It was way easier in terms of like my time and showing up, right? So I could organize them through emails, relationships. The contributors fill out a form. I just do all the back end work, which is really flexible. And yet, as a host of a bundle, I could get thousands of people onto my email list, right? If I did it well. I just want to pause there because in 2025, there's a lot of ship bundles out there that aren't done well. So it needs to be curated. It needs to be actually put together with care, and be really valuable for our audiences. But I turned to bundles. So I was doing those for a little while. But then I got the itch again and I was like, oh, I want to do a summit, but let's make it audio only. Let's record them on Voxer because I love Voxer. I can hide in the bedroom and record my little interview question,
Yeah.
and then it's up to them when they get back to me. So that felt really doable in terms of like my schedule and the kids and family life and things. And then I could just edit them. And because I'm a podcaster, I'm used to editing audio. So that was really easy for me, and got really great results. So again, it's like you're right in the sense of like you do something and then like, okay, what did I love? What did I not like? What worked the best? How can we play with this and inject that sense of experimentation? Because I love doing that just to see what will happen. And through that over the years, then it's been evolving and evolving. And the more that I've done events, whether it's a summit, a bundle, an audio summit, whatever it might be, the more relationships I have. And I'm also very intentional of like, okay, let's circle back. Let's make sure I'm actually building authentic, real friendships with these people because they're fabulous. But then it also does benefit my business too, because it's easier to organize in the future, or we do other things, or it like tangents off onto something else. So yeah, it's also being really intentional and not just be like, okay, next thing, next
Right.
people, come on, So yeah, does that answer your question? I don't know if that does, but it's kind of
Yeah.
it's evolved.
Yeah, and it has, and it is. And I also want to do one of my little pauses here for a jargon break because we keep using words like bundles and summits and all the things. And one of the I'll say myth on your behalf, but out there of like, and the reason I brought this up in the past, the only way to be successful is if you're the host, right? So I hear that thrown out there a lot. And that was what was playing in the back of my mind when I was telling people, you're still safe to only contribute. Like you don't have to. So will you give us the official Kylie definitions of the difference between a summit versus a bundle? And yes, we're all talking virtual here. And then what is your take on that? You'll only be successful if you're the host versus a contributor of things.
Yes, I love this. Okay, so a virtual summit, let's start there. The way that I've always ran them, if you think about it like a conference, it's just online and it's always pre-recorded. So you might find a selection of speakers. I always pitch them the topics that I want covered so that I'm curating the actual content. They send in their pre-recorded presentation. You put it all together as the event. People have to sign up to get access. So I'm getting, as the host, I get the list of everyone that's come to the event. But on the speaker pages, you always have the link to the free resources and things. And they're allowed to pitch their freebie and things in the presentation too. So the speakers get to grow their audience that way as well. And I will say with the virtual summit, you can also make it a revenue generating activity, right? Like I've made not a huge amount, probably between 5 and 10K each time I've hosted an event through having like an all access pass where they get like extended access to the replays and things like that. So that's like a virtual summit. So think of it like an online conference with pre-recorded presentations. A bundle, you probably would have seen them online, but it's literally like a digital gift bag, right? Like you contribute, you reach out to contributors, they give you normally what would be a paid digital product. As a part of the bundle, they give you access to that for free to everyone that signs up for the bundle. Again, as the bundle host, you get all the emails, but anybody that opts in to those gifts that are in the bundle obviously gets added to the contributors' email list as well. So we're all kind of growing together. Again, needs to be done well, needs to be curated, needs to actually be valuable. So if you're listening to this and you want to be in some bundles, please just don't apply to anything. I want you to pause and make sure your ideal client would be interested in it. Make sure you actually vibe, it looks professional. Ask them if they've done it before. Ask them what the results were before. Like, do a little bit of due diligence with that. But they're the differences. So online conference versus online gift bag. Think of it that way. And then in terms of hosting or contributing, hell no, you can get great results as a contributor. I only hosted because I thought I had to the very first time. I invested, full disclosure, like I invested in a high ticket program that was not great, that taught me that I had to follow it and I had to do it this way. And this was the only way to make it work. And almost burnt me the hell out, right? Yes, 600 people signed up, but burnt me the hell out. The second time when I did it my own way, still got great results. So all of that to say, like, I only did that because I thought I had to. You do not have to. You do not have to do that. So, of course, as a contributor or a speaker, you might not get thousands on your email list unless it's a huge event. But I will say you will still get like 50, 100, even into the hundreds if it's a great event. And they're going to be the right people. They're going to have listened to your presentation. They're going to be aligned with what you're doing. They're going to be your ideal clients. Even a bundle, like if you put in a resource that attracts your ideal clients, that then leads them to where you want them to go. Like I'm always about reverse engineering that product to make sure that that product then has an email sequence on the back that invites them into my mastermind or invites them into a paid product or like whatever. But be intentional about that. The people that you get on your list, like I'm in a bundle right now, not as the host, and I think I'm up to like almost 100 subscribers and they're the perfect fit people. Yeah. So no, you don't have to host. You can just contribute. Just make sure you do it intentionally.
Yes. And I like that. And that's why I was like, let's have a little bit of a jargon break real quick, because I want to make sure that, you know, again, like my people they're seasoned. We've done this, but so often these words get thrown around and then people will come up and ask us to do things. And it's like, wait, I thought I was signing up for that, but what's happening right now? You know, I was like, hang on, I'm so confused. You know, the very first one I did, which was someone who fully credited you for teaching her. It was a fantastic. She was so organized. It worked so well. And I had 400 people sign up on the first day. And so I was like, oh my goodness,
that's great.
I know. I was like, well, damn. I was like, okay. I was like, I like this. Now, they weren't all the same. You know, that was very much a positive outlier experience. I also had like a 30% of my conversion on my one-time offer that I had on my thank you page too. So I was like, okay, people like this. You know, it was those kinds of pieces that I enjoyed. And again, outlier results, not always like that. But like you can have those kinds of things whenever like it's really nailed in and it really makes a lot of sense, you know. I was also in another one where I regretted saying yes to it because I was like, this is not at all what I thought. I'm so confused. I don't know what's happening. I hadn't done a whole lot of these, so I couldn't just kind of like autopilot myself. You know, my VA was like, no one's replying to me. I have no idea what's happening. And, you know, we had like these visibility obligations that come with some of them and other ones, they're, you know, different people make different criteria. And I was like, I don't want to even tell people that I'm in, like, I'm so confused right now. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel like I have to do this, you know, so it can be hit or miss, but there are, just as you said, like due diligence, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to check. Don't be afraid to figure it out. And even just holding your hand up and being like, sorry, I'm new. I really want to do this. I'm excited, but you know, and hopefully they will have learned from you and have a fantastic little onboarding thing to help all their contributors.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. One thing that I will say as well, what I was doing, especially when I was contributing, or actually a couple of things I'll say, but the first one being I have a Google sheet. It's not fancy, but I track like, okay, what is this? When do I need to send out a promotional email? Normally it's one solo email at a minimum. I would not sign up to it. And I also want to say I would not sign up to a bundle that has too much more than that because it needs to feel good for your audience as well. If you have to promote 5 times to your email list, they're going to be a bit annoyed at you. So don't sign up to something that has more than like 1 or 2 emails. But yeah, like when I'm going to send out a promotional email, when it's live, what resource I've put in. And then I'll circle back in about 30 days after it's been live and put how many subscribers I got as well. Because that way, the next 12 months, if it's a 12 monthly thing or the next time it rolls around, you'll probably get pitched as like a past contributor. So you can go back and go like, oh, was it worth it? Was this worth the time I put in, the emails I sent, what were the results? So like the one that you just mentioned, I would mark that red and I wouldn't do that again. So I think tracking stuff like that's really important. And the other thing I'll say as well is don't get too, look, we all do it at the start because we're excited. I did this when I started contributing. I was like, I'm going to be in everything. I'm going to go for all of these. These are all amazing. And then I was like, holy shit, now I have to send out 6 different emails in like 3 weeks for these events that I've committed to. So like my general rule of thumb is like 1 a month, maybe 2 a month if it's like super aligned, just to make sure you've got your own stuff going out in between and it's not just you promoting other people's events as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that idea of slow growth, right? Where it's intentional and you're looking at it for longevity, because especially with a lot of these, like with summits, I mean, it depends on the topic. Because again, for me, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll speak on what do you want? Let's figure it out. But like with bundle stuff, if you're needing to give something that would normally be paid for, well, what is the saturation? How much of that is going to the people who've already paid for it? Or are you already out of those and you're needing to make another one in order to give it for free in a bundle, but yet you need to sell it for FTC regulations? But, like there's all these kinds of things that it's like, okay, what's my capacity? What am I looking at as far as my own audience saturation, versus like, because I'm just aiming for visibility, like you said, and you're like, and I was just enjoying it. And so I was like, let's do more, and that real balance of the positives of slow growth and looking at it with intention. And how is that like really framed and helped what you've done? Because you started off with the 600 and then the 600 again. But I mean, it still has that kind of long game to it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think as well, like when I started focusing just on my email list, I was all about the numbers. I was like, yes, let's get to 2K, let's get to 3K, let's get to 5K, let's get to 10K.
Told to.
And all about the numbers. And then I'm at about 5.5 now. And when I got to around the 5K mark, actually, no, it went up to like 7. And then I was like, oh, this isn't feeling as intimate, as curated as I want it to. Like there's a lot of people on here that haven't filled out their first name or that have like, I don't know, like spam email. Like it just didn't feel like my open rate and stuff was still good, but it just didn't feel right. So I scrubbed a whole stack out. And now I'm down to about 5.5 and it feels great. Like I send out emails, like it's a relationship. My email list replies to me all the time. They buy stuff it's great. But I think there's also a conversation to be had, and similarly to social, right? How we're always after vanity metrics. Like the email list is the same. Like it's not about the vanity metric number. Yes, we want like a warm, engaged list, and the bigger the better, of course. But at the same time, yeah, the slow, sustainable growth is way more important. Making sure those right people are on the list. I remember when I first started my membership, so I have a membership called the Email Growth Club. And when I first started that, a lot of people, not a lot, a couple of members in there just went gung-ho, like after growth, which I was like, yeah, let's do it. But they weren't intentional enough in terms of the ideal clients that they were getting. So they ended up with a list that looked really big and good and juicy, but then they go to sell something and it's crickets. And yes, I know there's probably a launch conversation that we could have around this as well. They might be doing some of those things wrong, right? However, like I just think that's the first piece, right? It's making sure that those right people are on our list, are a part of our audience. So like, yeah, the slower the better. If we can be more intentional, the better. I would love to ask you, Tracie, what do you think? Okay, so if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about the rest of the year and they have something they want to launch, I think this is a good question for you. They have something they want to launch. How would you plan when you're a part of something and when you're focusing on growth as to opposed to when you're focusing on the launch pieces?
Okay. Well, so I separate these concepts actually, because again, back to the jargon part, I see it as the difference between marketing and sales. Because your marketing, that's your long game. That's that marathon. That's the part that almost never ends, right? It continually like keeps going. Whereas your sales, that is your sprint. That's your short burst of promotion. And this is why you want to have your list segmented. You want to have like little tags where how long has someone been here? What are they on? What did they click on? Right? Because if you have your small products, like the ones that you would have given in a bundle, or the freebies, the things that, would have been a CTA, a gift at the end of like a talk or something, then those would naturally, in theory, line up with whatever that you're selling. Right? So you have this golden thread, this through line that goes through everything. And it's like, okay, well, if on my promotional calendar, I'm planning to sell this offer, well, where are all the little things that I have already started collecting relationships that follow that? And then that's what builds towards the sprint piece. So you're not inviting everybody to your sprint. You're inviting the people that, have already kind of been interested to it to begin with. Right. And it's not a case of length of time, because you never know that buyer's personality until they've been with you. Right. And you don't know if you're going to get somebody tomorrow who's going to take their time because they just bought 5 things and they hated them all. Or, they just had a kid, and how would you know that? Right. Or whether there's somebody who buys everything instantly. Like, you don't know. So it's not a case of, oh, I need to stop making relationships because I'm about to sell. It's a case of these are actually 2 different mechanisms. So do you have the systems and like the calendar in place to run them both at the same time? Or are you at a place in your business and in your support where you need to run one with priority and then run the other one with a different kind of priority because of your capacity, right? So because we always put that audience first. And whenever you have the audience first, then the rest will naturally follow along with it. Even if it's a brand new product that you never had any, possibility of having a workshop, a talk, a freebie, a whatever to put before it, it'll have something to do with, some crazy idea or thing that you've been talking about, that you've been excited about, that there will be little threads for. And you can make a big announcement, and you can even tell your entire list, but then you can still say, if you want to keep knowing about it, click here, click here, click here, right? And that's them like opting into those little things and having those options, and then carrying on, like the rest of the program keeps going while this other program is running in the background. Is that?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Sorry, I hope I was okay to ask you a question on your podcast.
Hey, why not? Why
not? No, I love that. I love that you separated them out, because I think often we can get overwhelmed like with all the pieces, like all the things, yes. But like that makes it nice and clean for anyone, right? Like it's like actually they're 2 separate things. So you can still be in a bundle, be in a summit, do all the things as long as your capacity allows, and it's kind of separate to like having to stop and shift. So that's, I like that.
Yeah, they very much are. And, and like to your point of you're saying, like they were all gung-ho, and, they were collecting like this big list, and it felt so vanity because the sales part wasn't there, and that could be like a launch thing. This is exactly how they are intertwined, because if you want better numbers, you need to have a better audience, right? And that can come over time. It comes with you knowing what you want, because these are businesses that we are so intimately in. They are us. Right? So it's like, how are we evolving our offers? How are we evolving what we want? What have we tried because we're experimenting and we're like, oh, wait, actually that didn't feel good, or I don't want to do it that way again. And as we're making those shifts and we're announcing these changes, there will be that natural, sloughing off. I just don't know a nicer way to say that. But, there'll be that kind of shedding, right? As people will naturally part ways, and new people will naturally be attracted. Right? So that's what's going to take time, and that is okay. But you'll have the better engagement, the better replies, the better click-through rates as you have a better audience, because it deals in percentages, right? So do you want 3 people out of 100 or 3 people out of 1,000? You still got 3 people. It's just one has way lower of a percentage than the other. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing that whenever we get tricked by metrics, it's like, oh, hang on, what's our actual baseline? Well, we still made 3 sales, so be excited, But it's like, is it a case of I didn't engage well, or like you did, where you were like, something's not right here. Let's do some kind of, shedding off. And you don't have to go in and just cold cut things. You can send out a scrubbing email sequence, and you can actually start sending out emails that talk to people and are like, hey, do you want to be here? This, when you came in, I was doing this. I'm now doing that. Do you want to hang around for this? And send out those kind of emails and see what goes on. And look at if people are even using that email address anymore, right? There's all those different ways that you can do it, because having a better audience leads to those better metrics.
Yeah, I love that. I must say, I feel like I am the queen of pivot. Like I pivot, if I change my mind often. I think that's one of the great things about being a business owner. And one of my favorite things to do is send out like a reintroductory email. And I'll say that to all my clients, that even if they had a little bit of a break, or like, it doesn't have to be this like, oh, I'm back, because nobody really notices. But it's a reintroductory of like, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm focusing on. This is who and here's some value. Here's a blog post. Here's a podcast episode. Da, da, da. If this doesn't speak to you, please feel free to unsubscribe. Like, it's the easiest way to start to, like, with love, let people go if they're not the right people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a nice, clean bless and release. Because it whenever it's relationship based, then it's no hard feelings, because you don't need to take up their space and they don't need to take up yours, but it doesn't mean that they don't remember you for someone else that's in their life that you're a better fit for. Right. And if it's a mutual knowing, then it doesn't mean you won't be like, oh, this will make sense for you too. Right. There's think about how many people that you are on their list out of courtesy, because they're people that but you're not going to buy their stuff. Or, if you wanted them, then you would like do a straight one-on-one thing because you know them, versus, joining one of their other things. But somehow, for whatever reason, you ended up on their list and you're like, oh gosh, but I actually know this person. So if I unsubscribe, it's like, it's those kinds of things where it's like, well, let's kind of take that away from it and just like, bless and release and leave that space, which will also help the email deliverability and all that tech stuff breathe a little better too.
Plus, our friends are paying for that, right? Like, if we're on someone's list because we're just being nice, like they're paying money so that we can just be nice to them. Like, come on, like that. Let go of that.
Well, and quite literally, like, depending on what email service provider, like they could be on one that actually like pays by the number of humans they have in their contacts. So if you're also on somebody's list with like 3 or 4 different email addresses, let them know so they can, tidy that up on their back end. I use one that doesn't like cap you that way, so it doesn't like cost that way, but there's a lot out there that do. So
mine does. Mine does. Yeah. So I was like, if you're please tell me.
And you haven't thought about that because you're also someone who doesn't pay accordingly. Yes, not only by deliverability are you not helping, but also you might be like 5,001 and they just had to up their plan.
Yes, so true.
So they need that ROI, right?
Yes. Let them know. Yes. Let them know. That would be the nice thing to do.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And, what is there any other like parts that you're thinking of as you're thinking about, these kinds of, I like to think of what you've gone through as more of like the evolution of business rather than like a pure pivot, because it's still coming out of your essence and who you are. Right. And all the things that you've seen and you've done, and you have this heart for helping people find visibility on their terms. Right. If you find that fair to say. But.
Yes. No, I love that. I do love that. And I think it's that permission piece around being or recognizing that evolution happens to us all, right? And as an example, like, so when I started my membership, I was following like a low ticket membership model. I had a dear friend of mine that had an amazing low ticket membership, and she gave and gave and gave. I still don't know how she did it, but she had the volume. So I was going after volume, and I ended up getting like 240 something members paying $19 a month. I could not service that many people. Like, I could not give them the depth that I wanted. Yes, they were happy because they were getting great value for $19 a month, right? But it felt so unaligned eventually for me. I think I did it for about 18 months, and then I was starting to really not resent the people by any means, but like just what I had built. I was like, I can't do what I want to do here. Like my heart is to help. I need to get deeper. I can't support this many people. And so I ended up pivoting it and increasing the price and changing it altogether. And meant that a lot of people left, but that's okay. Like, I think it's the permission piece is so big with all of this conversation, because it's like things will change and it's okay to let go of things. It's okay to pivot the model or the offer that you created. It's okay to love it when you start and then you evolve and you don't love it anymore. Like, that's okay and that's normal and it's all part of the process. So for anyone listening, I just think it's important to embrace that and know that it's just part of the journey, right?
Yes. So true. And the only way that any of these people are able to package up these models for you to sell and to do is because they tried it. Right. So it's equally okay for you to, use it as a spark for an idea, but go, wait a minute, this isn't working so well, and create one yourself. It's not that someone who's made a product or an offer knows so much more than you that you can't alter it yourself. Right. So because there is a huge difference in business and in sustainability, because that's what we're all about around here, is creating something that is sustainable for you. And that is based on what's traditionally called like the Walmart model, that's based on volume, versus the luxury boutique, which is based more on the premium. But there's an entire spectrum in between. So it doesn't mean you have to have 5 people at 20 grand a piece or 5,000 people at $10 a piece, right? There's a whole world in between that we get to play with. And that is the beauty of that, which is what I help people with. But for you with Email Club, how can people find out about it?
Yeah, well, go to my website. The website is the best place. So kyliekelly.com, everything is there. There's a fun little quiz and it's linked on the homepage that will help you figure out what visibility style actually matches your personality.
Nice.
So that could be a nice little thing to try if you're like, you guys talked about so much, I don't know where to start. Right. Go and take the quiz. It'll just give you one thing to try and it'll be perfect for you.
I like that. And you have your own podcast.
I do, the Email Growth Show. So I love my podcast. Again, I started it in 2020 when I was lonely, and it started off just me like chatting, and now it's become a combination of education around visibility and email list growth and my rants when something annoys me. So if you like a bit of like spicy take mixed with education, it's a good one to tune into.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and feel free to come back at any time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Good. Thank you for joining me here on Digital Business Your Way. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links mentioned today. And while you're there, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. And if you have a topic or question you want me to answer, I want to hear it. Head to traciepatterson.com/AMA and ask me anything about business. If I don't know it, I'll bring it up with one of my guests. And until next week, be well and have some fun.